Hey guys, so the 90-90 position has been popularized a lot the last few years, especially with functional range conditioning, just because it's a very important base position to do a lot of training in. However, some people can't sit in a 90-90 position just like this. If your front knee is coming up like this, that means you don't have enough external rotation of this front hip in order to kind of just let it relax on the ground. And then conversely, if you find yourself leaning over, that means that this back hip doesn't have enough internal rotation in order to help keep you up. So for me, there's a big difference between my two sides. My right side is a lot better at external rotation. It's also why I'm going to be demonstrating on my right side. And so if you find yourself with your knee coming up this way, where you just can't, you have to try and push this guy down. There's a lot of reasons why that could be, but 90-90 might not be the best position for you to work in. Sometimes you can prop a pillow or a yoga block underneath this front knee, and you can do some pails and rails work from here. But there's a very easy way we can do the same amount of work in just a different position. And so in this figure 4 position, we're going to place our left, if we want to work on this right hip, we're going to place our left foot on the wall. We're going to place our right foot on our left thigh and our left knee. And you can relax your head. Now with this, what you want to do is feel a stretch through the back of this hip right through here. So what we want to do is let our tailbone fall down towards the ground this way. And that's what's going to get you that stretch. That same stretch that you feel in 90-90. If you arch your low back, you're going to feel all of this whole area stretch. And so this is where you would spend your first 2 minutes just kind of recruiting all of this bioflow back here. And we're really working on the back of the hip. Now, if you don't feel a stretch, you can just get yourself closer towards the wall and then focus on sinking your tailbone down towards the ground. If you find yourself up too high this way, just push yourself away. I like to find a nice neutral spot like this, and then from here, let everything dip down towards the ground, and I'm going to feel a really good stretch. Here, I would hold it for 2 minutes. Now, there's many ways that we can train the hip. It all matters on what your intent is and what the goals are. And so for the pails and rails that are really popular that you'll see online on Instagram or on YouTube is what I'll call tissue-specific pails and rails. So we're trying to really open up the connective tissue on the back of your right hip. So this is, the rotators, the glute. It's all the stuff that you feel when you do like a pigeon stretch or what we're feeling right now. However, that might not be the only thing that's stopping our hip from rotating externally. We could actually be tight deep in that hip capsule where the ball and socket joint come together. That whole capsule that's made of a very dense connective tissue, that thing might need its own set of training and exercises in order to loosen up. And so there's a lot of levels of tightness that you might be feeling. This specific exercise that we're going to do is not going to address that deeper connective tissue in the capsule as much as other positions. And so for this specific exercise, we're mainly focusing on if you feel a tightness through the back of the hip right through here. And so it's been about 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, we're going to take a breath in. And we're going to trap air into our lower abdomen. We're going to get a little bit of tension. Now, it's important to keep breathing behind that shield. So try and stay tight and then take short, shallow breaths. I can squeeze my fists and my arms. I can push my left foot into the wall. And so I can irradiate a lot of the muscles in my body in order to help what I'm about to do. So now the pales contraction, a pales is always activating the stretched tissue. Okay, so if we're looking at our hip joint here, this area back here is the progressive angle. It is what's stretched right now. And so what we're going to do is we're going to drive our knee towards the wall this way. And I'm trying not to twist or arch my back. I'm trying to keep everything else still. And that's one of the reasons why you can squeeze other muscles in your body. And then we're slowly driving that knee towards the wall. And so we're going to slowly ramp up how hard we're pushing. So we're not just going to go 0 to 100 this way. We're going to slowly start pushing the knee in and then ramp up how hard we're pushing until we get to whatever our maximum comfortable level is for that day. That might change day to day. And then once you get to that maximum, we're going to hold it for about 10 seconds. And then after 10 seconds, we're going to try and keep this knee here. Don't let it spring back to that original position. And now we're going to try and lift our whole leg off of this left leg. Now, what's going to happen is if you're too close and you feel a really awesome stretch, that might be good, but you might not have the strength on the front of your hip in order to bring this leg off of your other leg. So we're trying to do this without using our hands and without leaning forward and without bringing this knee up first or anything like that. So what you're going to find is if you're too deep, that means that you're past the strength of the front of the hip. So then you'd have to push yourself away, open up this angle a little bit more, and then see if you can do it from this position. And so if you can do it from this position, this is where you should be training from. So then you would hold this for about 10, 15 seconds. That's your rails. You're going to feel it in the front of the hip because we're trying to pull this whole thing off, okay? Now, it's not just the tightness back here that's preventing our leg from coming up towards our torso or towards our chest. It's actually the strength on the front of the hip that's preventing me from lifting this. If I'm too deep, if I'm all the way down here, there's no way I have the strength. I'm putting myself in too deep of a range of motion, and I won't be able to elevate this off without doing a lot of compensation. So I want to find that right working angle where I can get a good drive in towards the wall, but then I can also hopefully lift. So for me, good working angle for rails would be right about here. And then what I can do is, so I did my first 2 minutes in a nice deep stretch. I then activated it with pales for about 10, 15 seconds. I can then push away from the wall, get to my rails working position, do my rails contraction for about 10, 15 seconds. And then I would scoot my butt back and relax and hold a deeper stretch. Now remember, this is a regressed version of the 90-90 pales and rails for external rotation. But this is just another way for you to be able to work to improve so that this thing's not up like this. You can actually touch the ground and then sit up nice and tall.